Karen always had a habit of pushing boundaries. Literally. For months, she kept cutting across the edge of my ranch property. First, it was just her walking. Then she started driving her SUV over my hedge like it was her personal shortcut. I'd replanted it 3 times. 3. Each time, she flattened it without a second thought. One day, I confronted her. "Karen, this is the 3rd hedge you've destroyed. Stop driving through my property." She scoffed. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. It's just bushes. Besides, your driveway is too long. This is the quicker way." "It's my land," I said firmly. "You don't get to decide what's quicker." She leaned out her window with that smug grin. "You can't stop me." "Oh, really?" I spent the next week preparing. Not with cameras. Not with signs. She ignored all that. No, this time, I decided on something a little more hands-on. I reinforced the hedge line with a hidden surprise. Steel bollards, thick, retractable posts that I had installed just beneath the soil. The tops were painted green to blend in, almost invisible to the casual eye. The next evening, I heard the familiar growl of her SUV engine. Right on time. She revved up, aimed straight for my hedge, and wham! The entire front end of her SUV jolted to a dead stop. Her bumper cracked, the hood crumpled like an accordion, and her airbags deployed with a muffled pop. The sound echoed across the quiet ranch. Birds scattered. I walked out onto my porch, coffee in hand, and called over. "Evening, Karen. Looks like you found my hedge upgrade." She stumbled out of her car, coughing and furious. You sabotaged me. This is illegal. You set a trap." I shook my head. "No, Karen. I reinforced my own property line. You chose to trespass again. That's on you." She pointed a shaking finger. "I'm calling the cops. You'll be arrested for this." "By all means," I said, pulling out my phone. "Let's call them together." The deputies arrived 20 minutes later. They took one look at her mangled SUV embedded in my property line, then back at me, standing calmly with the land deed in hand. I explained the situation, showed them the survey markers, and pointed out the repeated trespassing incidents I had documented. The lead deputy sighed. "Ma'am, this isn't his fault. You drove onto his land, repeatedly, and hit reinforced barriers. That's on you." Karen exploded. "Reinforced barriers? That's a trap." The deputy shook his head. "No, ma'am. That's called property protection. You're lucky it wasn't worse." When the tow truck arrived to haul away her battered SUV, Karen was still shrieking about lawsuits and conspiracies. But the deputies warned her. One more incident, and she'd be charged with criminal trespass. Word spread fast around the neighborhood. People started joking that my hedge was built like Fort Knox. Some even drove by just to see the infamous bollards. Karen, meanwhile, had to borrow her husband's sedan for weeks. Every time she passed my ranch, she slowed way down, glaring like I'd ruined her life. But here's the thing. She never tried driving through my hedge again. Turns out, steel has a way of teaching lessons that words never could. Last year, I had to spend 6 months overseas for work. Before leaving, I made sure everything was secured, fences repaired, and cattle tended to. I had a ranch hand checking in weekly. Everything was in order. But when I returned, I didn't recognize my own land. Where my fields once stretched, there were rows of cookie-cutter houses, sidewalks, streetlights, driveways, and bright banners that read, "Welcome to Oak Ridge Estates, Phase 2. 138 brand new homes, built directly on my property." I nearly ran my truck off the road. I stormed straight to the HOA clubhouse, where Karen, the president, was sipping iced tea like a queen on her throne. "You've got 10 seconds to explain why there are houses on my land," I growled. Karen smiled sweetly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. The developer decided to expand, and your ranch land was perfect. Don't worry, you'll be compensated once the sales finalize." My blood boiled. "You built on MY property without consent. That's trespass, fraud, and theft." Karen laughed. "You weren't using it. Now families will enjoy it. You should be thanking us." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just walked out because I knew something she didn't. See, the developer who originally built their subdivision? I'd gone to school with the CEO, and while the HOA thought they were cozy with him, they forgot one important detail. Their contracts only covered the lots already sold. They had zero rights to expand without purchasing new land. And they hadn't purchased mine, which meant every one of those 138 houses was sitting illegally on my ranch. I called the CEO. Hey, you might want to check your records, I told him, because your company just built phase 2 on land I still own. There was silence on the other end of the line, followed by a panicked, "What?" I sent him the deed, the surveys, and the aerial photos. Within hours, his legal team descended on the HOA like a pack of wolves. Turns out, the HOA board had forged documents claiming they had development rights. The contractor never verified ownership, they just built. That single mistake triggered one of the biggest lawsuits in county history. The HOA was sued for fraud. The developer sued them for damages. Homebuyers sued them for selling illegal lots. And me? I sued for land theft. In the end, the HOA was completely bankrupted. Karen and her board were personally liable for millions. Their homes were seized, their assets drained, and their reputations destroyed. As for the 138 new houses, the county condemned them. Some were bulldozed, others sat empty, rotting shells of a failed scam. My ranch hand and I tore down the cheap sidewalks and fences, and I reclaimed my land. Today, when I drive past that part of my ranch, it's peaceful again, just wide, open fields. A few remnants of driveways poke through the grass like scars, reminders of what Karen and her HOA tried to steal. They thought they could take my land while I was away. Instead, they lost everything, while I gained one of the most ironclad property rights cases in county history. My ranch stood long before their HOA, and it'll still be here long after they're gone.